This is just a sample of the audiobook. To get the complete audiobook, access the link posted in the first comment.
My reference first and foremost is the river. I love the smell of the river, love its history, its gentleness. I was aware of its presence from my earliest years. Its majesty centered me, calmed me, was a solace to a certain extent. The name Walton probably derives from the Old English words wheel tun, meaning Britain or surf, and enclosure or town. Remnants of an ancient wall were to be found there in my youth. Walton is one of 3 closely related villages, the others being Hersham and Weybridge. When I was born, they were little more than stops on the railway line leading out of London into the county of Surrey. Hersham was the poor relative and had once been merely a strip of woodland beside another river, the Mole. It was originally occupied by Celts, whose implements were found in large numbers in the area. The Romans were there, and Anglo-Saxons were the first settlers. Hersham was very much a fringe settlement. Walton, slightly better off, was a larger village. Weybridge was altogether upmarket. Walton's small claim to fame was its bridge over the Thames. A very early version was painted by Canaletto. J.M.W. Turner painted a newer bridge in 1805. The span was reconstructed again long ago, but in my youth the bridge was so old and pitted that our bones were jarred as we rattled over it, and I was able to peer through the cracks and see the river flowing beneath. Driving across, away from the village, usually meant that I was leaving home to go on tour with my parents. Crossing back, though, was to know that we were in familiar territory once again. The river was our boundary. We could leave the busy world behind us, and our front door was only moments away. To this day, when I am flying into England, it is the view of the river that I search for as we descend towards Heathrow. And suddenly I see it, stately, sparkling, winding through the meadows, forever soothing, forever serene. I was named after my 2 grandmothers, Julia, Elizabeth. Julia, my mother's mother, was the eldest daughter of William Henry Ward. He was a gardener and met my great-grandmother, Julia Emily Harmon, always referred to as Emily, when they joined the staff of a large house in Stratford-upon-Avon. Great-granny Emily was a tweenie, which is the name given to the poor unfortunate who gets up even before the servants and lights their fires so that they, in turn, can see to the comforts of the household. She was 11 years old when she went into service. Some years later, she and great-grandpa William married and moved to Hersham, where their first daughter, my maternal grandmother, Julia Mary Ward, was born in 1887. There was to be a barren lapse of 9 years before the rest of the family came along at 2-year intervals, in a vain effort to produce a son. 4 daughters were born, who were collectively known as the girls, all bearing highfalutin names, starting with Wilhelmina Hermione, followed by Fenella Henrietta, Nona Doris, and finally Kathleen Lavinia. Mercifully, they were all shortened to Mina, Fen, Doll, and Kath. Finally, the longed-for son arrived, William Henry, shortened to Harry and then to Hadge, by which time Julia, being the eldest, had married, and soon after gave birth to my mother, Barbara Ward Morris, in July 1910. This meant that my mum had an uncle only a few years older than she, and therefore a built-in playmate. I remember meeting my great-granny Emily Ward when she was in her 80s. Great-grandpa had died, and she was living with her daughter Kath. Great-granny was small and round like a barrel, with flawless skin and fine, pure white hair. She always smelled of fresh lavender and called me dearie. She had a sweet smile and a soft voice.